Every damn day.
Hello, everyone. It's Jerry at the Fledge, and welcome to Season 2, Episode 62. And today I'm here with our new friend, Fred Joyal, an entrepreneur, an author, the founder of 1-800-DENTIST. And I'm super excited to talk to you, Fred. How you doing today?
Just fantastic, Jerry. Excited too.
Yeah. Would you mind telling us a little bit about you and kind of your history as an entrepreneur and as an author?
Okay. It goes back to the 80s where I was working in an ad agency and I had the naivete to start my own business with a friend that turned out to be 1-800-DENTIST. And we raised $30,000 from our family and built it into the largest dentist referral service in the country. Over the 30 years we ran it, we generated in total about $1 billion in revenue, over $1 billion technically. So it got a lot bigger than we thought it was going to be, and we learned a lot along the way. Made a lot of mistakes, made survivable mistakes, as we like to say. But it was a great career. And wrote a few books, did a lot of public speaking, and then got to this point where, because I was talking primarily to dentists and their teams, but I had evolved this idea from the evolution of my own life on how to cultivate the superpower of boldness in a systematic way. And so that's what my latest book, Super Bold, is. And the subtitle is From Underconfident to Charismatic in 90 Days, because you can really transform yourself much more quickly than I did. It took me decades. Yeah. But it can be done. And I'm very excited to help people do it because it affects every part of your life.
First of all, everybody I've said, hey, Fred Joyal's coming on. He was the founder of 1-800-DENTIST. Everyone's like, why is he coming on your show? Because everybody knows what that is. You must have done just hit everybody everywhere with 1-800-DENTIST.
Yeah, I mean, we spent $500 million in advertising over the time I was there. So that's a lot of impact, mostly television advertising. And I was in about half the commercials. Yeah. So I in some markets, I'm still sort of recognized. I say I'm a micro celebrity. I'm like in this tiny category of dentistry. I'm really well recognized.
We call it ghetto superstars around here, but yeah. So, in the 80s and the 90s, that seems like a huge undertaking. Like you can set a budget for that now with Google ads and Facebook ads and stuff like that and spend that pretty easy. That must have been really innovative and hard work to spend that much.
I mean, we really invented every aspect of the business. There was no template to work from. So we had to set up a call center. We had to figure out what we were going to say. We had to recruit dentists. We had to build the database of dentists and all of the services that they offer, and then the hours and training and licensing and all of that stuff, and evolve that constantly as technology evolved. I mean, when we started, there were no hard drives in our computers. It was literally the data's on one floppy and the programs on the other floppy. And to the point where eventually, we went from $1 million telephone switch in its final stage to not needing a telephone switch because the technology had evolved so far. But everything had to be figured out, and we created all of our own advertising. We bought it. We figured out how to track it. We did all the placing ourselves. We were essentially internally, we were an ad agency, a media buying agency. And that was where all of our profitability came from, is doing it efficiently. Because I had worked at an ad agency and I saw how they wasted money. And I said, we can't afford to do that. We have to make the phone ring. We have to get real patients for the dentists. And so we had our own creative department, made all our own TV commercials and placed all the ads, and just had relationships with TV stations all across the country.
Were you passionate about dentistry, or that just happened to be the one that sounded
No,
the best?
it was, it's one of those random things. I mean, I had a really wacky dentist who was like a holistic dentist 20 years before anybody even used the term. And I always thought, how would anybody find this guy? So when I heard the idea for 800 dentists, because this was the phone number belonged to a friend of mine. He had when 800 numbers came out, he had this moment of brilliance where he said, I'm going to grab this number. It's 7 digits. It's exactly what you would think it is. And there aren't many numbers exactly like that. And he had it ringing to his house. And he saw me working in advertising. He said, I think you turn this into a business. So my partner, Gary, and I, we just decided to do it. And we were off and running, but it could have been 800 mattresses for all, just as easily. And it just happened to work. It happened to everything that we did eventually congealed into a profitable business after about 3 years of slugging away at it.
That's interesting that like 800 numbers used to be the domain names of the past, right?
Yes, exactly.
There probably still are, though. I mean, it's still good to get
There's
good
a
one.
few. There's a friend of mine has 800 no cuffs, which is who you call if you've got a DUI. And it's one of those things. It's like, you need the phone number, and he says, like, don't talk to the police, talk to me, just call me immediately.
Right when you get pulled over?
Yeah, he says, just you get your lawyer on the phone, especially if you've been pulled over and you're probably not going to pass a breathalyzer. But it's a different sort of career, and it's very specific. I think 800 mattresses still works. 800 flowers started when we did, and the last thing they want you to do is call them. They want you to go to the website because they can handle the whole transaction for fractions of a penny rather than having a live person say, oh, what would you like to send for Valentine's Day or Mother's Day? And they burn up all of this cost with a live operator. So they don't want but that's how they started. But that they migrated completely to the digital world. 800 dentists, eventually we had our .com, and we moved very heavily into the digital world, to the point where now I don't have the business anymore, but they're all online. They don't do any broadcast anymore.
All right. So one more question there, or I think one more question, and then we'll move on to Super Bowl. Do you think you had an impact on the health of people's teeth? Like, was that a passion? Did that start to drive you at some point?
We liked the idea. I mean, Gary and I had other jobs where the customer didn't always win. We had sales jobs where, we were pulling the wool over people's eyes a little bit in order to close the deal. And we said, we don't want to do that anymore. We want everybody to benefit. We want the patient to benefit, the dentist to benefit, our employees to benefit, and us to make a great living. And so it had to check all 4 of those boxes for us to be interested. And we became very passionate about the positivity of getting people to take care of their teeth, because that does make you healthier. And of course, I've learned massive amounts about dentistry and the connection between your oral health and your overall health, which is deeply intertwined, even though healthcare and health insurance won't pay for any of it.
Yeah.
But it's, a healthy mouth is integral to a healthy body.
It extends your life, right?
Yeah. And if you don't, it shortens it. Right. Every year they come up with some new disease linked to periodontal disease or something like that. Risk of heart disease, breast cancer. The list just keeps going on and on. Throat cancer, all of these things. If you don't have a healthy mouth, if you've allowed, particularly your soft tissue, but even if you're losing teeth and stuff like that, that's affecting everything in your body. That's without even going into the more of the homeopathic sort of thinking about, what's going on energetically in your body based on your teeth. I almost said dentition. I almost went into more clinical terms. But yeah, I became very passionate about it. And I'm the other thing that happened is I met really great dentists all across the country who really cared about taking care of people. They were passionate about doing that really well. And it was great to find them patients. It was really nice to be able to recommend them. We were like Yelp before Yelp. We had doctors that we had sent eventually hundreds of patients to, and knew that people really liked going to them. And that was very satisfying to know that was the caliber of client that we had, of dentist client that we were recommending.
And that was a double-sided market before most people understood double-sided markets, probably, right? You had to recruit the dentist and the patient.
Yeah, they were both my customers. One of them was paying, but I had to keep them both happy or I didn't have a business.
Yeah. This is amazing. I could talk about that all day long, but I am super interested in Super Bowl because I work with a ton of entrepreneurs that are shy, I guess.
Yeah,
they don't like to pitch. They don't like to get out in front of people. They like the craft that they do or whatever it is. And let's jump into that.
Yeah, and what I learned early on in life, and it took me a while to incorporate it into my own behavior, is that boldness really is a superpower. I mean, it can transform everything that happens in your life by being bold, by speaking up, by stepping up, by trying stuff, by letting rejection roll off your back, by not hesitating. And I learned it the hard way because I missed tons of opportunities. And it just made me frustrated and angry. And I said, I have to change this about myself. I've got to be able to speak up. I want to meet people. I want to meet great women. I want to meet great people in business. I want to have, I don't want to miss fun and adventures. I don't want to miss important situations where you want to be able to make your move and not hesitate, whether it's meet that, you see somebody, an athlete or a movie star that you really admire. You want to be able to go over and talk to them like a normal person and have a real conversation, not just dive at them and say, can I get a selfie? That just freaks them out. And most of the time they're going to say, no, thanks. But I've met amazing people because of it.
There's so many tangents I want to go on, but I'm going to start with the one, almost everybody that I interview talks about, oh, I'm going to do some shameless plugs at the end. And I'm like, no, they're not shameless. This is what we're here for. You're doing something special. Let's get it out there. What do you have to say to those people that feel like they're just self-promoting? But
it's like, if you're not going to promote yourself, why would anybody else? If you're not proud of what you're offering, passionate about what you're offering, then you probably shouldn't be doing it. And if you are, then you got to learn to put it out there. You got to wear the t-shirt. You got to wear the hat. You got to stop people and say, do you know what would benefit you that I do? You got to be, we had to, when we started 800 Dentists, we had to beat the streets. We had to go door to door, talk to like 300-400 dentists before we found 20 of them that would go along with what we were doing. And we had to say, we didn't even know if it was going to work. We just said, look, we'll give you all of the patients that call from this zip code. Oh, okay. That sounds pretty good. Yeah, it'll be $1,000. $1,000 a month. Oh my gosh. Yeah. But if you don't do it, the guy across the street is probably going to do it. Oh, I don't want him to get it. I'll do it. So we had to learn to do that. And that took me being much bolder than I was comfortable being, but I had to build a business. I had $30,000 of family money and I had to prove to my old boss who said 800 Dentists would never work. I had to prove to him that it would work.
Is that the only reason it worked, is just to prove him wrong?
One of the primary reasons, certainly.
So, that's a great lead into the other thing I wanted to ask you. Are you an introvert?
I am basically an introvert. I'm what I call a bold introvert because I like doing stuff alone. I get a lot of stuff done alone, but I am not lonely. I am not lonely anymore. I am not alone when I don't want to be anymore. And I can meet anybody. I can walk up to anybody and have a conversation with them, or be rejected by them and not go feel like I need to jump out the window. It's like, oh, they didn't want to talk to me right now. Not a big deal.
Yeah.
And that is transformational. Because if you're an entrepreneur and you're trying to build your business, you're going to need to find connections. You're going to need to find mentors. You're going to need to find customers. You're going to need to find investors. And you have to bring, like, if you're not willing to be a self-promoter about your business everywhere you go, the investors are not going to be interested in you. They're going to bet on the jockey, not on the horse, as they say. You could have a great idea, but they're looking at you. They're going to invest in you, and whether you can be passionate about it enough to convince them to give you their money, but also are you going to be passionate enough to tell everybody that could be interested and potentially be a buyer that that's what you're going to be doing. You're not going to go like, oh, I'm going to engineer something really brilliant and hope people come to me and ask for it. Yeah, that happens a lot. I mean, we know so many businesses, you and I, where they had a great business idea and a great execution of the product, but it died because they didn't know how to market it. They didn't know how to sell it. Yeah. And there's plenty of products that are really average, but they market the heck out of them. There's some crap that's really well marketed that people end up buying, especially like on Facebook and stuff like that. The stuff around the holidays, you can buy some real garbage, right? That has a great video selling it.
Wish.com wouldn't exist if people didn't buy garbage. I'm sure of it. There's a model that I always teach entrepreneurs, that a great idea with a horrible implementer is going to go nowhere. A horrible idea with a great implementer is going to go pretty far. I mean, they can go. It's exactly what you just said. I love the way.
But if you got both, now you got a great business with longevity. Yeah. 800 dentists as a concept. Think about a business that went 30 years. It's hard to get a concept to run that long. I mean, eventually the internet and Google disintermediated us, but it took them 10 years to do it, to really take us down. And we were profitable the whole way right to the finish line till we sold it.
That's awesome. It really is an honor to have you here, because you're teaching so much to the young entrepreneurs who listen to the show. So I appreciate that very much. I got one more question about introvert though.
Sure.
Introvert extrovert, I think, is a new phrase that people have been splashing around lately in the last few years, at least, and really talking about the introverts that go out there and be bold and how exhausted they are when they get home. Do you talk about that in the book? Do you find yourself exhausted from having to take that shell away and then put it back on?
It's because they're stressing about the interaction rather than getting energized from it. And it's because they've pushed themselves so far out of their comfort zone that it is an effort to do it. They have learned how to do it or pretend to do it, but it drains them rather than feeds them. Mm-hmm. And it's so they didn't really learn how to do it. They learned how to almost fake it and summon it. But then they got, I need to refresh myself from this. That was grueling. Whereas once you learn to be bold enough that it is your default mode, it's effortless. You just say, yeah, I'm going to go. And all, part of what they're doing also, they think their job as an extrovert is to make people interested in them and to be interesting, when actually what a bold person does most of the time is she makes everyone feel like they're the most interesting person in the conversation. They're the most interesting, really good people. And I teach this in the book as well. It's a very simple way where you make that person you're interacting with feel like not only the only person in the room, but the most important person in the room. And it's not that hard to do. And when you do it, sometimes, and the techniques, they will learn very little about you, but they will find you fascinating because you were so interested in them and you were asking questions about them, and you weren't, instead of telling them everything interesting about you in an unbroken monologue until they glazed over, you were busy focusing on them and connecting only with them. And when you do that, they think you're fascinating.
You know, some people are going to hear that, and I don't mean this the way I'm about to say it real quick, but it's sort of, it's almost Machiavellian, right? It's almost like you're manipulating the conversation, but I think you go beyond that. I can actually feel that even coming from the screen. How do you keep it sincere? Because I bet you do.
What happens when you do that, when you actually don't think about making yourself interesting to somebody, what you're doing is making a human connection. And why not make somebody feel better about themselves by making them feel interesting? It's actually a positive feedback loop for yourself because you're doing it. I mean, you could just do what I call a drive-by compliment. You can just go to see somebody in Starbucks and say, man, that suit looks terrific on you. I mean, it really, you're wearing the heck out of that suit, and walk away. And you've sprinkled fairy dust on them. You've just made them feel good about themselves. You haven't been interested in the outcome at all. And that's really why it's not Machiavellian, is you have no hidden agenda. Your outcome is to connect with that person, to get to know something about that person. And it's amazing how deep you can end up going with people when you do it. They'll start to reveal stuff about themselves. They'll get really vulnerable.
I'm so pumped up, man. I've got chills on my skin right now because this is exactly. Tell us about the book. How do we buy the book?
Okay, so it's on Amazon, and it's in hardcover, it's in Kindle, and it's in Audible, and it's me reading the book. And it breaks down the mindset you need to transform so that you can realize why you want to become bold. It also talks about a bunch of social and communication skills that a lot of people don't know. And then the last third of the book is 5 levels of exercises that you're going to do on a daily basis to expand your comfort zone and build your boldness muscle a little bit at a time, little increments, but it will constantly be rewarding you because you're not overwhelming yourself. You're just getting better and better and better at it. And then you'll create the neural pathways so that eventually your reflex will be, I'm going to make the bold choice. Like people say, do you get nervous when you go on stage? And no, I can't wait to get on stage. I used to get nervous. Now I've transformed it. And I turn all of that nervous energy into powerful, positive energy that lets me bring the full you out to people when I'm on stage. But I can also do it in a room with 5 people or 2 people or 1 person. I can bring the full me out because I don't feel like I have to hide that part of myself. So, and you can go to my website, fredjoyal.com, download the first chapter of the book, and get a sense of what it's about. But remember, if you're going to buy the book, don't just read it. You got to do stuff. It's about taking action. Do a boldness exercise every day, and that's what's going to transform you. And it's going to be fun. It's going to freak you out a little bit when you first do it, because I'm going to tell you to do stuff like when you see a sign that says employees only, go in and realize that nothing bad happens when you go in, and realize all of the stuff you told yourself about how you couldn't even turn the doorknob. Oh, it says employees only. I can't go in there. Oh, what's going to happen? Nothing is going to happen. They're not going to beat you to death. The most that's going to happen, and this is a small percentage of the time, somebody's going to say, excuse me, this is for employees only. At which point you just say, I am an employee, just not here. I misunderstood the sign. And they'll look at you like you're crazy and you leave. But it's an exercise to just realize all this crazy self-talk that we have stopping ourselves. Bold people never are the ones stopping themselves. The rest of us, we're stopping ourselves all the time. I'm trying to break you with that habit. And that's what Super Bold can do when you do the exercises.
So with super bold versus regular bold, what?
Super bold is the difference. So boldness is confidence in action. So you want to feel confident, but confidence is how you feel. Boldness is how you take that confidence and go into action. Do stuff, say stuff, try stuff, meet people, take chances, take risks that you know are low percentage, but you still want to try them and you want to learn from them. You reject rejection. Failure is a step up, and you never miss opportunities when they're really important, because a lot of people are confident and bold in all sorts of situations until it's really important, until it's like, oh, I need to ask for a promotion and I can't summon it, or I need to speak in front of all of these people and tell them about my new idea, but I can't do it, or I need to do a eulogy for a parent. Oh, I don't want to speak in front of people. You will get one chance to do that, and it will gnaw at you the rest of your life that you didn't step up and talk about that person that raised you. And so super bold is you bring it everywhere. Your boldness is there whenever you need it, when it's most important, when it could be one of those 2, 3, 4 pivotal moments in your life, and you're right there to step up, to speak up, to take action, to take risks, and chase your dreams.
So I've got somebody commenting over here. I just want to put out so that he definitely does it. Definitely picking up Super Bowl. Amazing stuff.
Thank you, Omar.
This also happens to be somebody who I talk about boldness and confidence, and I hope he doesn't get offended by this, but I often say to them that confidence is silent, that there's this confidence that you can have, but I don't think you're giving the same advice. I think you're saying a different thing. And I would love to juxtapose those things, because I won't argue, because I
no,
love
but
what
well,
you're
again,
saying.
the subtitle of the book is From Underconfident to Charismatic in 90 Days. Charisma is really just you are so comfortable wherever you are, you radiate this confidence and can take bold action whatever you want, and people are just drawn to that. Your ability to be calm and energized and your full self in every situation, that draws people to you, and they will say, wow, you are charismatic. I mean, when people say it to me, I say, are you talking about me? And, but they said it enough where I went, I guess I've gotten this far where I'm so comfortable. I act like I belong wherever I am. It doesn't, I could be dressed wrong. I could be the poorest person in the room, least successful, least attractive, whatever the heck it is. I still act like I belong there. And that's what I believe. And that draws people to me. It's like, why he's the only guy without a tuxedo on, and he seems to be completely comfortable with that fact. And they end up talking to me and say, man, I didn't have to wish I didn't have to wear a tuxedo. What's your excuse? Are you lying? Did you say you lost your luggage? And I said, well, that is my lie. Yes, that is what I'm saying. I just didn't bring a tuxedo. And I pulled them in instead of feeling like, oh, I'm so awkward, I don't have a tuxedo on. And that's just an analogy for a million situations where we tell ourselves we don't belong, or we're not worthy of meeting that person or doing this, or we're going to be embarrassed or humiliated. Bold people they don't run that program. Or when they hear it, I call it Dr. No. When they hear Dr. No speaking, they go, yeah, that's interesting, I'm not listening. And they go do whatever they want. And even if they're uncomfortable doing it, they go like, I'm going to do this till I get comfortable.
Do you ever suffer from like an imposter syndrome? Because I do. Because I'll be out there. I was in a hoodie in a CEO networking meeting this morning. I got a shirt that says Lucifer. It's making fun of cats and everything on. And I'm like, why am I in this room? But I still had confidence and I still had the boldness, but I suffer from it on the drive back to my office.
Yeah, because we still are going to tell ourselves this terrible information. one of the things I try to teach people early in the book is when you hear this voice in your head telling you something, stop and say, is that true? Could that possibly be true? How true is it true 1% of the time, 5% of the time? Oh, people are going to laugh at you. They're going to be embarrassed at you and embarrassed for you, and you're going to feel terrible. It's embarrassment is a choice. One of my favorite stories is a friend of mine. She's on stage speaking. She breaks a high heel, and now that's a horror show for most women. The idea of that happening anywhere, out on a date or out anywhere, on stage. So she kicks her shoes off and she says, I guess I need to start spending more than $30 on shoes. The whole audience just laughs, and she owns them at that point because she chose not to be embarrassed when every one of the women in the audience is saying, I would be horrified if I would run from the stage if that happened to me. And she just rolled with it. That's the choice that you can make. And so you're only an imposter if you decide to tell yourself that. I've met really successful people who they're just people. They've bumbled into some things and worked really hard sometimes to get to some things, but they've been lucky. They've been at the right place at the right time. They had a really great partner, or they created a really great marketing program that just resonated with people. Any number of things could happen. Nobody is a crossover genius, except maybe Elon Musk, who can just everything he tries, as crazy it is probably going to work. But the rest of us, we're trying and failing and good at some things and get some things done. And I love when people tell me about where they messed up, because it's fascinating. Because I say, oh yeah, I blew $100,000 on that too, and I lost all of it. And I wish somebody had told me not to. That's kind of what I do now as I coach business executives and say, look, I have $1 million of survivable mistakes that I can help you avoid as you go through your business, as well as help you be bolder. But I can also help you be bolder in the right direction so that you can have a dominant brand. So it's don't be an imposter. You're just going to make me mad. Because that's a story you're telling yourself, and you have to say, why is that true about me? It's not.
Yeah. Well, one thing I think you brought Omar and I closer. Boldness is confidence in action. I think you said that really earlier, and so you're helping us men there for sure. But for the entrepreneur, imposter syndrome is, that especially in those beginning phases can really knock them off tilt a little bit. And I haven't read your book yet. We're definitely getting copies around here, and I think it could help. I mean, do you have a demographic that? I mean, is this for kids? It's not for kids, but for
teenagers. I mean, this is what I wish I knew at 16 and 20 and 30. But I have had the whole spectrum. I mean, it's certainly people, like if you're coming out of college, this is stuff you're going to want to know. If you're going into high school, this is stuff that you're going to want to know. If you're starting a business, this is what you want to know. If you're in a career change or a life change, I'll give you another example. I gave the book to a friend of mine who was a retired football and wrestling coach, and he reads the book, and he says, I want to read your book. And I said, well, let's face it, you're 69, and he said, yeah, I want to read because I know you wrote it. So I want to. He calls me up and he says, I'm going back to coaching. He says, I don't know why the heck I'm retired. He says, I love training athletes to become high performance athletes. And I know how to do that. And that's satisfying. I don't want to be retired anymore. The bold move is to find a way. I don't need to make money doing it. I just need to find a way to go out there and start doing this again. And I just thought, okay, It's for everybody. And
I
I've had really successful people that I consider really bold saying, wow, I'm listening to you and I'm reading a book and I'm realizing I can be even bolder. And that's the reality, is you can always get up your game. You can always get better and bolder and refine your social skills to another level, take bigger, smarter risks, but never be the one to stop you.
why Well, I think you just answered it. I'm going to retract my why for a second. As we come, I didn't realize that we're at 35 minutes already. This has flown by. You're super interesting, and this is an interesting concept. Um, let's go to the book promotion. Let's make sure we've got Amazon, we've got the book, so we kind of know how to search on, find that. But you said you're doing coaching as well. You wanna promote that a little bit too?
Yeah. So obviously I do keynote lectures on Super Bowl. So if you had a sales team or you were just trying to get your organization to get enlivened, to get stepped up and more confident in there at every level, whoever it is in your organization, I love doing keynotes, and it's transformational for people because they, it's interactive. I get people on stage doing stuff they never imagined they were going to do. And, but also with individual executives, I coach a few CEOs right now who are, they have good businesses, but they got a lot of blind spots, as we all do. And so I help them build a team that covers their blind spots. And also I'm really candid with them about what I think their strengths and weaknesses are and how they have to challenge themselves and what they have to change about their own mindset. And just, what they'll say, I really want to try this. And I'll say, this is what will happen when you do this, because this is what I did when I wanted to do that. And, and I lost $250,000 doing it. Let's turn that 15 degrees and do this, and it'll work. So there's a lot of that. I call it, hitting different potholes. You don't have to hit the ones I hit, and you don't have to hit them at the speed I hit them. You can just go around them. But you got to know they're there. And it's, you learn stuff in business by doing stuff. And I've got tons of marketing experience, and sales experience and executive experience. I created a fantastic work culture. When my last month at 800 Dentist, we celebrated 3 25-year employees that month.
Oh,
3
wow.
people in that month had basically spent their entire adult life working for us. And that made me really proud that we had created a place like that. But when you create a place like that and that happens, it's because they're defending the culture even more than you are. They are more protective of it than even I would be. That's the only way it sustains itself.
So I love this conversation, and I like to give somebody just one thing to walk away with, and I'll give them a simple thing: buy this book. But without giving the whole book away, what's a simple thing we could all do today to just be a little bit more bolder? And let me say why I'm asking this. Actually, connection is the opposite of everything bad in our world, whether it be, the unhoused, substance use disorder, gun violence. The more connections you have, when you meet somebody that can help you, it's not what it's who you know. That really matters sometimes. And so when I think about what you're doing and what you're talking about, where somebody can walk up to somebody else and meet them, you're thinking superstar sometimes, but we also have the reverse of that, where just, an average person in our community could smile at somebody with the cardboard sign, could be a little bold with them. You don't always have to give them $1 or the cigarette or the beer or whatever they want. You can just be kind. And I see this being relevant. What can we do to just be a little more bold?
I think the simplest advice, that the starter kit, is talk to a stranger every day, and randomize it completely. Like you say, roll down the window and to the guy with the sign at the intersection, and just say, I hope things start to look up for you, and that'll be better than the dollar you give them, because you looked at them and you said, I see you as a human being, and I express something positive to you. And then talk to somebody, and never have an agenda, have an ulterior motive when you talk to that stranger. It's just to connect. Maybe it's just, ideally, it's to make them feel a little bit better about themselves. Compliment them in some way. Just say hello. Just smile at them. Do something every day with a stranger.
I have nothing to add. That right there, I love it. I love it so much. So, anything we forgot to talk about? Anything you want to push a little bit more, real quick?
No.
right.
I like to end with this thought, is that the only person that you need permission from to have the most satisfying, enjoyable, fun-filled, love-filled, exciting, fulfilling life, the only person you need permission from to have that is you.
Plug to that. So I'm going to take us off the air, but stick with me for 1 second. Everyone, that's a wrap for Every Damn Day. I know we went a little bit long, but Fred is so incredibly interesting, and these are important subjects across the board. Entrepreneur, social entrepreneur, just somebody trying to survive through the day. I love what you said, Fred. So thank you so very much, and we will be on Every Damn Day again tomorrow, because it is Every Damn Day. So love you all. See you later. Anything you want to say, Fred?
No, thank you, Jerry, for giving me a chance to talk